Hi everyone, it's Davey from EndlesslyHeSaid. Today I'm here with my friend Lee, who is Autumnboy, and we're going to be talking about our top 5 heavy Christian records.
I am Autumnboy. I'm from Coventry. Yeah, basically I'm just a musician that makes emo music, electronic music, but is also emo music, and it just kind of coincides with each other. And that's basically what I do, as well as YouTube and stuff like that as well.
Here's a little clip of what Lee does.
To be something people would like to see. It's terrible.
We're going to get started and we're going to talk about how we came into the scene and why we listen to Christian heavy music. So I've been a Christian since I was about 13, and I've been listening to heavy music since I was about 16 or 17. It's really just about music that glorifies God, that is enjoyable, just stand up for what they believe in. I think that just goes for every music that I listen to. Like, I want to have some kind of value or ethic that they stand for, whether it's being Christian or you're a straight edge band, or where I came into Christian music.
So I got into heavy music when I was about like 11. I started listening to Linkin Park. I got into them through like Dragon Ball Z AMVs. It's cringy, but I think it's kind of cool at the same time, so I'm just gonna run with it, and now that's out and everyone knows it.
Okay.
So, but yeah, basically I listened to them and then got into loads of other bands through stuff like Guitar Hero, and like I just liked stuff that had expression through it. So when people were able to completely express themselves and put their heart on their sleeve through music, that was amazing. And I didn't properly, get into my faith. I didn't become a Christian until I was about 18 years old. Wanted a way to express my faith correctly or relate to people expressing their faith. And so then I tried to, search out and find more and more bands that were expressing that rather than anything else. And I seem to manage to do that, and I'm still trying to search out, and then on top of that trying to make my own stuff that expresses things as well.
I'm going to dive right into it. We're going to work from 5 up to number 1. I use the word records quite loosely because my first record is a 7-inch, and it's by the band Venia. The record's called I've Lost All Faith in Myself, and I got into this as soon as it came out. I got to see the band a couple of times at Cornerstone Festival. They just riff like they're in Buried Alive or Madball or something. 7-inch is it's called I've Lost All Faith in Myself, and the song Crux, which has that lyric in it, talks about being faithless in the things of this earth. Like, people often say to each other, like, I believe in you, I've got faith in you. And really, the record was all about having faith in God. It's also important to remember we can't do anything in our own strength. We can only do it with God.
I've got to go off the back of that. That was like super like spiritual big, and I'm just like, I just think it's heavy, it's cool. My number 5 is, it's by Fit for a King, and it's called Creation Destruction. And this album, it's one of those things where I found it hard sometimes to find bands that were ridiculously heavy, that had a really cool Christian message in it, apart from like For Today and Sleeping Giant and stuff. So this was another one that was kind of stepping out there, and despite the fact that they are overtly Christian, they seem to integrate themselves really well into the secular scene. And so I really like what they're doing with that. I like the fact that they're real about their faith, and they're still like dropping some of the heaviest breakdowns that I've ever heard. I saw them back in 2015 in Nashville, Tennessee at Rocket Town.
Nice. And
it was like the best lineup I've ever seen, honestly.
Yeah.
It was like For Today, Fit for a King, Gideon, Silent Planet, and Phineas. It was insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my number 5.
My number 4 record is Norma Jean, Redeemer. I talked about this recently in one of my record videos, and you can go check that out here. I love this record, and I've said before, but for a lot of reasons, is that Norma Jean came into my consciousness with Josh Scogin as the vocalist, and I thought they were incredible. They were doing something very radical for music. That just did something bigger and better, and it made me turn on to bands like Deftones. Regardless as well, like Norma Jean put on one of the best live shows, and I think if we're talking about a consistent band in Christian heavy music that have been there since a long time ago, Norma Jean would be the one to go and check out.
Number 4 is With Roots Above and Branches Below by The Devil Wears Prada.
So good.
Absolutely amazing record. I think Devil Wears Prada is a different one for me because I said earlier that I didn't get into a lot of Christian bands until after I was a Christian, but I was into these guys and I'd seen them before I was a Christian. I'd seen them like 3 times before I was a Christian.
Nice.
And yeah, they freaking killed it. This album, I think it's cool because it was a really wonderful transition point between them just playing crazy stuff that's all over the place and then having like songs that were actually structured, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I think that this one had a really cool amount of melodic content and it was still really metalcore at the time, so it sounded really great, and I don't know, it had a really cool theme flowing through it, and I don't know, it all just seemed to fit together really well.
My number 3 top 5 heavy Christian record is Sleeping Giant, Dread Champions of the Last Days. So I have another cornerstone story about this, but this was in 2011. They headlined one of the days there. And I chose this record because it's the one that, as soon as it came out, I was listening to, like I bought on CD, and I was just fanatical about it. This album is just filled with like radical biblical ideas. So Sleeping Giant are a band that came off the back of Death Star. And if anyone's ever listened to ridiculous straight edge music, you know it's ridiculous when a band's got 4 vocalists. Tommy Green is such a charismatic vocalist, and he's also a really great speaker from the stage. And when I saw them in Cornerstone, he was baptizing people and praying over people from the stage. Like, there was probably about 5,000 people there, and it was unreal. I'd never seen anything like it.
My number 3 is I'm Almost Happy Here But I Never Feel at Home by Hotel Books. I think Hotel Books are ridiculously good. It's kind of weird because they're a band, but like members change out all the time because the whole project is just a dude called Cam Smith. It's his poetry and he gets people to write stuff around it. And like it's brilliant. What I find amazing about it is it's something that really pushed me to do more spoken word, because it was very expressive, and it was that and a band called Being is an Ocean that really kind of pushed those things for me. Is like, you can just talk and rhyme, and it doesn't have to be super lyrical all over the place for it to be expressive and for it to be cool. And so I love what they do there. It's a really different sound, and it kind of comes off the back of, I don't know, like bands like La Dispute and Me Without You.
My number 2 heavy Christian record is Advent, Naked and Cold. I chose this record because it has probably my favourite worship song on it, and that song is called Revival. It's slap bang in the middle of the record, and it has one of the heaviest breakdowns and just has completely like worshipful lyrics in the middle of it. And Advent are a really great band that have just come back. This record like just made me want to make music. I think if a record makes you want to do that, then it's definitely worth listening to over and over and over again. Mosh Level Midnight, it's just too much.
Yeah, my number 2 is The Night God Slept by Silent Planet. I think Silent Planet are really different when it comes into the whole Christian heavy scene. The social commentary throughout their music seems to kind of throw the gospel in a completely different light, and the way that they treat people, especially from my own experience of seeing them and spending time with them, like they seem to really just live the gospel in the way that they do things, and it's not like they're trying to force it, it's not like they're trying to really push it into their music. They're just people that really love God, really love people, and that shows through the topics they want to write about and how they interact with people. If you get the chance to see them live, do it, because they're brilliant, and like try and talk to them because they're just great guys.
Number 1! Number 1. My number 1 heavy Christian record is The Chariot, Long Live, and the reason that I chose this over other Chariot records that I've spoke about before is I've realised that this one was the one that made me love The Chariot completely. I think the song The City is one of the best songs that they've ever written. It just took that step forward from the fiancé that they really needed to take, and it just brought them into the real world. And for me, the other thing about this record is perfect is the live nature of it. Like, they recorded it, so much of it live, and the song David Delahoz with Dan Smith from Listener on it is spectacular, and I'll link the video down below in the description so you can see that, but it's a one-shot video over 5 minutes, and it's
insane.
It's insane. I just love this band. I'm really glad that Josh Gogan keeps making music, and I'm really glad that John Terry's playing with Listener now, and there's a world of musicians all together, and they do survive their memory, because I was heartbroken when they broke up in 2012. That's my number one, The Chariot Long Live.
My number one is, I guess, maybe controversial to some people that are in the Christian heavy scene, because the band isn't necessarily a Christian band anymore, but it's Dear God by Being Is an Ocean. I know that that Joel, the vocalist, is still a Christian, but the rest of them aren't.
Okay.
And Dear God is something, it's basically a album that I got into not long after giving my life over to Jesus and becoming a Christian and starting getting into my faith, and it touched on a lot of issues that come into like being new in your faith, and like a lot of anxieties and like loneliness and things that are major struggles in being a Christian and just life in general. And so when I was listening to this, it was like, yo, I really relate to this like a lot. And so I would listen to it again and again and again and again, and they became like one of my favorite bands, and I watched them like 4 different times. Like I've seen them like 4 times, and yeah, they are just a brilliant band. Like musically, I rate it so much. They've had a really solid progression, and yeah, I don't know, I just, like, even though I don't listen to that album that much anymore, it's still a really solid hallmark in my faith.
Thank you for watching, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please share it with your friends, share it with the Christians that you love and the people that don't like Jesus as well, and I'm sure they will appreciate our commentary.
Most definitely.
Most definitely. Give it a like, and I will see you guys soon. Take care. Bye.
Really, like, what have I been doing my whole life? We are number one. Hey!
Their arm up like this, and then they're like smashing each other.